As a fast-paced entrepreneur, I am always looking for ways to get my body and my mind to perform at much higher levels of efficiency. So you can imagine when I ran across the Bulletproof executive, I was instantly intrigued, and I discovered a company that not only had a great product and was so aligned with my values of productivity and efficiency that I was excited, but here's a guy who has created raving fans that are just massively creating a huge buzz all over the world. Hi, it's Melanie Benson here. I'm America's leading small business optimizer. And this weekly podcast is all about how to replace the incremental growth and overwhelm that a lot of entrepreneurs are feeling with optimizing strategies that help you automatically generate exponential impact, higher levels of profit, and a lot more efficiency in the process. Because ultimately, we all want to be doing more of the things that we love. So let me introduce my guest for this week. Dave Asprey is a biohacker, a Silicon Valley investor, an entrepreneur, and the man behind the Bulletproof coffee legend and the huge wave of excitement that's got all over my industry, at least. And Dave, you don't know this yet, but I had a really fun experience how I got to know you. I want to paint a picture. Okay, there's a beautiful winery, kind of like almost like being in Tuscany. Music playing in the background, lights all twinkling all over, of course, copious amounts of wine and enjoyable snacks being enjoyed. And there's a little murmur in my crowd of 20-some really high-end entrepreneurs. And they're talking about this biohacking and bulletproof sex and bulletproof coffee and all this stuff. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And, there's this little hushed kind of conversation going on. And they look at me and they go, you don't know about Bulletproof coffee yet? And I felt like I was like, wow, how did I miss this? So I have to tell you that my group of friends, my little circle of influence, they have been hot for Bulletproof coffee and numerous amounts of other fun things that you're putting out. And it just, I was like, oh my gosh, what is Bulletproof coffee? So of course, immediately I'm having to go and figure it all out. And pretty much everybody I know who is in the high achiever circles is consumed with the Bulletproof coffee and a bunch of other of your products, the protein powders and the oils and all that stuff. So, of course, I'm thrilled to have you here today, and I can't wait to dig in behind the scenes of the Bulletproof brand and what you're all about. So thanks for coming on today.
Well, thanks for those kind words and just letting me know that the stuff is working the way it's designed to work.
Yeah.
So it just makes me feel good to hear that. Thank you.
Yep. And I think that's really what it's all about is when something works, everybody raves about it. And it's one of the best parts of marketing is creating something that blows people's minds. And I knew this was a great connection when I read in your book that's coming out soon. Being bulletproof means using the most efficient techniques that get the job done with minimal effort and the smallest amount of time. And I think that's a great theme for us to dig into today, because obviously the way you're doing it is you're going in from a different side that I do. So I can't wait to dig in.
It may make some people mad, but the best entrepreneurs are terribly lazy people.
I think a lot of them would say they are. I think they're self-admitted lazy. I am self-admitted lazy. Like, I am not like a high achiever by nature. I definitely had to learn how to do it.
There's kind of a joke I like. Do you know what they call the guy who graduates from medical school with the lowest score?
An entrepreneur?
No, they call him doctor.
That's awesome.
So what's the goal, and how can you get there quickly? And that's not to say he's not a really damn good doctor, too. It just means he spent less time cramming for tests because he didn't have to be at the top of the class to be a doctor and to cure people and to heal people. So this isn't to praise the guy at the bottom of the class or the top of the class. It's just to say match your effort to the desired outcome, and you might find you can do many, many more things than you planned.
Love it. So how did Bulletproof get started? I've heard your story, but I think it'd be great for our listeners to hear a little bit about what was the catalyst that got you into this Bulletproof, empire that you're building.
I don't look at it as an empire at all. It's what I'm doing is I'm sharing things that have changed my life with a lot of people with the intent to help them. And in order to do that, having a louder voice helps. So I'm learning how to reach more people, but I give away the knowledge. I don't charge for that. Well, I guess you could buy my book. There's some knowledge in there, but the infographic for the book, I'll send it to you for free if you ask for it. Like, I want people to do the things that have changed my life, because I have a bit of a selfish goal here. And when people do the things that make their biology work well, then their brains turn on all the way, especially the prefrontal cortex. And not only will they be better entrepreneurs, but they'll be better people, and they'll be nicer to their kids, and they'll probably be nicer to my kids too if they ever meet them. So there's enlightened self-interest here. But I am a much better person when my biology works better.
Yeah.
And when I don't have weird things going on because I ate the wrong stuff, when I'm able to bring my energy to bear on parenting or on building my company or to go on stage and do what I do when I'm sharing some knowledge, or just to bring the knowledge into my brain, all of that requires energy, and it requires being free of distraction. As people listening to this know, because they're entrepreneurs, distraction is death. So there's all this stuff coming at you. You're sort of under-resourced quite often, and you know, in fact, now we've proven with science that there's only so many decisions you can make in a day. And there's so much willpower, and you can build it up, and you can also burn it out. And what a lot of people do, and what I did in my career in Silicon Valley as an entrepreneur, is, well, I'm just going to like lean into it, and I'm just going to keep doing it until I fall over. And what I didn't understand was that I would run out of willpower. And what I also didn't understand is that I was using at least half of my willpower telling myself, don't eat that, even though I would have a craving for it because I weighed 300 pounds. And I used my willpower to work out 6 days a week for an hour and a half a day, half weights and half cardio, and I didn't lose the weight. I got strong and still fat. So for me to have lost 100 pounds using things that were the opposite of what was supposed to work, but things that were driven by data and driven by science, was kind of liberating. What I didn't understand would happen was that when I addressed my biology, that my brain would turn on. Because I was having severe brain fog in my mid-20s. I made $6 million at the company that was the first, we called it co-location company, but Google's first servers were in our buildings, Hotmail's servers. So basically the foundation for some of the current cloud computing things we do today, I played a role in that. And what an amazing time. You make $6 million when you're 26, lose it when you're 28. But along the way, I did spend $300,000 on fixing my biology, on literally upgrading things. So I perform better now than I did when I was 20 or 25. And it's that knowledge and that ability that I brought to bear in the Bulletproof Diet book, which is at its core about doing everything humanly possible to turn up your willpower. I used to sit in a meeting. I worked at a company called 3Com, which has now been bought by someone or another. But they were one of the two big networking companies in the rise of networking in the internet. It was Cisco and 3Com. And they bring these reasonably good quality chocolate chip cookies into meetings. And I was dealing with some pretty severe brain fog and cravings at the time. And I just thought I was hungry, but it was not hungry. It was a craving. And I sit in the meeting, and there's a cookie. I'm like, cookie. And then, what if the guy was saying something, and cookie. So you kind of go back and forth. And what I was doing without knowing is I was making a decision. Every second, my body would say, cookie, and I'd say, no, cookie, no. Every no is a decision. So by the end of that meeting, I'm exhausted from a willpower perspective. I'm trying to pay attention, and I'm trying to ignore the cookie. Trying. I wasn't trying to change the world. I wasn't trying to invent the next big thing. I was trying to say no to something that my body wanted. Where I sit today, like, if I'm craving the cookie, frankly, if I even give a crap about the cookie in front of me, I did something wrong. It's my fault, and I didn't manage my biology well. I managed my bank accounts. I managed my company. I managed oil changes in my car, but I'm not managing my cravings. The cravings happen for a reason, and it's a reason that's in your control if only you know what to do. That's why I created the Bulletproof Diet. It works for me. It's worked for a lot of other people, but that's the gist of it. You want to be an entrepreneur? Free up your willpower and stop wasting a third of it on saying no to food that your body wants.
That is brilliant. And, having been somebody since I was 20 that had to manage my diet so that I could not have brain fog, because I got diagnosed with hypoglycemia when I was really young. So I had to get a lot of stuff out of my diet really early on. But it was, like you said, I love this distinction about the willpower because your willpower takes so much energy. And when I learned to just make my baseline healthy, then it's not choices. You know, like the other night, there was a whole bunch of us at this big dinner, and everybody's sucking down these little shot glasses of desserts. And I'm like, I could care less. It doesn't even appeal to me, because the cravings, I think what you're saying is when you set your body up for health, which is so profound, you're not craving what is bad for you or what's going to take you out of that optimum experience of energy and focus.
It's funny because the idea of health, most people think they're healthy because they're not in a hospital and there isn't really strong pain. But health is like a dimmer switch. Mm-hmm. What most of us think is a good state is probably like a third of how good you can actually feel. But understanding how to get to the next level is really tough because, like, let's say that if you're the average person, there might be 10 things you're doing, and they're all kryptonite for your system. And so let's just imagine you're Superman for a minute. And you don't know kryptonite makes you weak. So it turns out there's kryptonite in Lois Lane's ring, and there's kryptonite on, well, let's say the steering wheel of your car, and there's something at the desk where you go to work. So you're like, well, I went on vacation. God, I feel bulletproof today. But then you go back, and you'll just live life without ever knowing that the capacity is there because there's these little things that are just around. Maybe the spoon you eat dinner with has kryptonite in it. So they're everywhere. What I did with the Bulletproof diet is I went through and I'm, all right, what are the foods that create higher performance, less inflammation, the most energy in the vast, vast majority of people? And those are bulletproof foods. And then what are suspect foods? These are foods that leave meaningful percentages of people in a lower state of performance. Some people, it's a dramatic hit. Other people, it's just a small lowering in performance. And then what are the kryptonite foods where you just need to not eat those? Those are not for humans unless those humans are about to die of a famine, in which case, hey, you survived. Now you can go eat some food and maybe feel better later. So understanding that hierarchy takes what could be a lifetime of work, and it lets you, instead of having to say, well, maybe Superman's like, I think it might be Lois Lane's ring. So he puts the ring away. She's like, well, no, that wasn't it because I still feel crappy all the time. Put the ring back on. And if you're allergic to milk and you're allergic to dairy and you don't know it, and you're also allergic to something weird like mung beans or whatever else,
right?
You're going to eliminate one and you'll feel no difference. And you eliminate another, you feel no difference. You say it wasn't those. So the trick is get rid of all the things that are suspect and get rid of all the kryptonite and see what happens. And in 14 days, everything happens. But yeah, you'll lose some weight. But most importantly, your brain will turn on. And if you use Bulletproof coffee made with the right ingredients, this is the brain octane oil that's 18 times stronger than coconut oil, and grass-fed butter, and beans, coffee beans that don't include mold toxins, because untested beans actually are very likely to have some toxins. And I published a study on executive function. 6 of 7 measures of function are measurably different when you're using lab-tested coffee beans, the ones that I make. I know that because normal coffee, I drink it, and I feel great, and then I get a headache, and I get food cravings 2 hours later. But it's dependent on what's in the coffee, and I use lab testing to work that out. So just do it right for 2 weeks, and you're like, okay. I had a day where I didn't ever drop a word. I grew up expecting to open the refrigerator and not remember why, and to go to the store and forget why I went to the store. And hundreds of other times, literally hundreds, I'd say, what was I going to say? What was I talking about? What's that word? I can tell you now, if one time in a day I have to grasp for a word, the only thing that goes through my mind is, I wonder what I did. Because my brain works all the time, and I've never had that before. So to be able to consciously build and create that state of high performance, and to be able to be on stage, and to have what didn't used to be there, the ability to look at the audience and read what they want, to think about what I'm going to say, and to say what I'm saying, and to emote at the same time, I didn't have that because I didn't have the biological capacity because I was eating things that made me weak. So as an entrepreneur, I'm nicer to my team. I have more energy, I'm a better leader, and all of this happens because I have enough energy in my cells. And then my hormones work right, and my cell membranes work right, and that lets me spend extra energy on managing my emotions and my psychology and doing personal development work, which even leads to better things like meditation and spiritual types of things. It's a whole stack, but you've got to get the biology there, and that's why I'm starting out with this book. But there's many other things we can do to perform better.
Yeah, and it's almost like what you're doing when it's almost like, I don't know, I'm trying to find the words for this, but what I know is that when you're in these healthy, optimized states, everything you do adds to that. And when you're in these low vibration, you're eating like crap, you're not, sleeping well, your body's not performing well. It's like you're trying to reach so far and it takes so much more energy to get where you want to go. So it's less energy to get further distances when you're creating this optimized health state. And I don't know if I'm using words that you would choose, but to me,
no, you're right.
That's invaluable, is to really create these optimized states. So it's less energy to get further.
It's like compounded interest.
That's exactly the right way. That's what I was looking for. That's a perfect analogy. You do this for a living, so obviously you've got great ones.
I was sort of getting that vibe from what you were saying. But it's like you put a quarter in the little video game, but then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I got that back, and I got a little bit of extra, and now you could use the extra to go out and like drink an extra 2 shots of whatever you're going to drink that night. And then you use that resilience. But if you get extra capacity, and you apply that directly towards getting more capacity, it's like, if a lamp, you rub a lamp and a genie comes out, and you could ask for one wish. Well, the only wish you'd ever want is, can I have 2 more wishes? Because every wish, you just ask for more wishes, and then you're done. Well, when you're wishing for more willpower, for more biological reserve, every time you get more energy, you're like, okay, how can I use that energy to get even more? And at a certain point, you're like, all right, I have so much energy, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. But you can invest that energy in entertainment, in relaxation. But where most people underinvest when they're entrepreneurs is in recovery. And that's why in the Bulletproof Diet, I write about things you can do to optimize your sleep. And yeah, it's a diet book. It tells you what to eat for high performance. But if what you're eating kills your sleep, you did it wrong. So recovery is way more important actually than exercise, especially for entrepreneurs. I know so many people, including some of my coaching clients, like, well, I'm running a company. We're going to grow 500%. We did last year. We're going to do it again this year. And I'm also training to run in 4 Ironman triathlons this year and to be, a CrossFit athlete. Right? And you're like, okay, you're a total stud. I get it. There's just one problem. And I've had some of the top CrossFit athletes and some Ironman triathletes on Bulletproof Radio. But what those guys do is they train hard and they recover hard. All pro athletes do that. They get to take naps. They eat really well. If you're an entrepreneur, you're already an athlete, but you're in a marathon that never stops because there's always more work you can do to run your company.
So true. You
have a lot of stress here. What you need is enough exercise to make your biology healthy, but not excessive amounts. And if you want to exercise more, you're going to need to sleep more, you're going to need to eat more, and you might need to work less. And set up your company to do that. That's totally cool, whatever you want to do, but you better have really good delegation and a really good team and good processes and procedures. Because if you don't have that, you're not going to like the way your company looks when you win your triathlon.
I'm so glad you brought that up. And it's one of my big mantras is you've got to take as much time away to recharge and get recentered and, to be able to like tap back into a vision that's not just you on a treadmill doing the same stuff all the time. And that's a great way to put it is recovery. Hey, while we're on this subject of entrepreneurism, would it be okay if we just kind of look behind the curtains of Dave Asprey for a minute? And I'd love to hear a little bit about, obviously you've got great insights and great tools. And by the way, I've read the Bulletproof Diet book, and it was like extraordinary, so much information.
Thank you.
But, let's go behind the scenes of being a business owner. Would you share with us maybe what's been one of your big challenges that you had to overcome as an entrepreneur?
The biggest challenge that I've had in the last couple of years is fear. But it's not my fear. I've done a lot of neurofeedback and a lot of personal growth work where I'm completely willing and able to make mistakes. But when I work with my team, the way most people are trained in corporate America is to not make decisions. And what they do is they look up to the next level of management and they say, what should I do? And what I do with all of my employees is there's only one answer I will ever give to that question. And the answer is, what do you think? Right? I pay people to bring in large amounts of information. They know the lay of the land. They know the situation. They know the parties involved. They know the data. And to make recommendations and then execute on them. They can check in with me and they can say, look, here's the situation. I have option A and I have option B. And I'm pretty sure we want to do option A, but there's probably stuff I don't know. Like, Dave, what do you think? And then we're going to sit down and we're going to hammer through it. That's a strategy discussion. But when I get this all the time, even to the point, and now I'll be a little bit ridiculous, but I actually do this. I manage my decision-making very strategically. So my wife, Lana, who is definitely a saint, she'll send me a text, and she'll say, by the way, I love that mug.
I got that through Jeff Spencer's event when we connected, awesome. When you did that. I love that mug, too.
So what I did is Lana she'll send me a text, do you want to have lunch at 12 or 12:15 today? And I'll reply to that, and I'll say yes. And it drives her insane. But the real dialogue that's going on there is, hey, she's saying, I care about you, so I'm making lunch today. By the way, I do a lot of cooking in our house, so it's not like she always makes me lunch every day. She's a Caroline's Good trained physician with an MBA. She's busy too. But I look at that, and what she's trying to do is do that. But what she's unconsciously doing is asking me to make a decision. And honestly, I could look at my calendar, and I could say, I don't know, which of those is better, and I could do all this thinking, but I have better things to think about. So the answer is yes, because honestly, I don't really care if it's at 12 or 12:15, and I don't want to make the decision. So I have a carefully scripted decision avoidance protocol, which includes telling my team, and it scares the crap out of them, guys, tell me what you want to do. And they have to learn that I'm not going to beat them about the head and shoulders. I'm not going to blame them. I'm not going to abuse them if they make a mistake, because you're not going to grow at 5 or 10 times the normal rate companies grow if everyone's walking around going, oh, I wonder what I should do. I better ask the central authority figure. I want distributed authority figures who are accountable to goals and who ask for help when they need it and get advice when they need it, but don't ask me to make decisions on 1 minute worth of information. So the more senior I become, the bigger the organization becomes, the dumber I get from the perspective of a new employee, because there's so much data, there's so many things coming through, it is not reasonable or possible for me to know all the moving parts. I rely on people to know the moving parts and to bring it to me. Early in my career, I ran technology strategy for a $36 billion market cap company. This is an early cloud computing company. And I remember I once described my job in strategic planning. I would attend the executive meetings every Monday morning, and I said, my job is to take ideas that are crayon simple and redo them in finger paint for executives. And I'm like, these are the dumbest group of people I've ever met, but I was young and arrogant, because what I didn't understand is that they were managing far more data than I ever did. So what looked simple to me was because I had the lay of the land for my little piece. So my challenge as an entrepreneur is scaling my organization with people who will be absolutely fearless and willing to make mistakes and willing to come to me at the right time without too much information and without too little information. So it's teaching them. And some of that comes from experience, and some of that comes from policies and procedures and just the operating system of my business.
I love that on so many levels. It would take a whole call just to explain it all. But, just to boil it down, when you as the entrepreneur learns how to have decision-making systems, both for yourself, and then you can pull that down into your team, you are able to use your time so much more optimally. And really that's such a huge piece. And so many entrepreneurs are micromanagers and they're afraid to let go of control. I'm really glad you brought that one up today.
It's not a coincidence that the concentration in my undergrad was in decision support systems. It's a subset of artificial intelligence, but I use systems to support my decisions because I'm a pretty smart guy, but I just don't have all the information that my customer support guy has, because he talked to 100 customers today and I didn't. And if he says, what should I do? I'm going to say, I don't know, Ben. Why don't you tell me what you would do? Because you're a pretty smart guy, and if you weren't, you wouldn't be in your job. And then he'll tell me, and it's always the right answer. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. And then I get credit for it, even though I don't even want credit for it. But that's how a good entrepreneur is.
Yeah.
Build a good team, trust your team, empower your team, and then your company will move. If it all comes down to what you do, you'll just lose sleep, and you won't like your life.
How important do you think mindset is to the overall success of a business owner these days?
I don't think you will succeed with a poor mindset. It is everything. And there's, the sort of powers of magical fairy intuition and things like that. where people say, oh, that's too soft. It's not quantifiable. In fact, I went to Wharton, like the king of quantitative MBA schools. But I will tell you, if your mindset's wrong, I don't care what the math says. You're still not going to do what you could do. And if you do a portion of what you could do, you won't even like it when you do it. So if you don't get the mindset right, you're putting your energy in the wrong place.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in mindset. I think every single catalytic moment, every game-changing moment for me was a shift in my mindset that led to a shift in some kind of an external piece that followed. But I think a lot of people are doing it backwards. You know, they're trying to do all this external stuff and trying to get more results. But until you shift up here, or you can change the internal power that you're using, you're just wasting energy and time. And sometimes money.
A lot of times money. One of the things that I do with my coaching clients, and I'm a busy CEO, and I take on 1 or 2 clients a week, and I do that because it makes me a better CEO, and it lets me help other people who are working to change the world. But what I'll do is I'll tell them, all right, here's a device, clip it on your ear, and it's going to tell you when your fight or flight response gets triggered, so you can learn what that feels like. And what most people learn very, very quickly is that, like, dozens to hundreds of times a day, something happens that is not a thought. It's a feeling, and you feel it in your chest. And what that is your sympathetic nervous system getting tweaked. And as an entrepreneur, it could be that, you know, someone gave you a bad review on Amazon. Now, you might look at, wait, that person gives everyone on earth a bad review. And it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean your product is no good. It just means that someone out there is probably really unhappy and just leaves bad reviews all the time. And there was nothing you could have done about that. Now, either that takes you out of your zone and you start worrying and you yell at your people, or you're like, okay, there was a bad review, but oh, look, there's like 50 good ones. Or maybe there's 25 bad ones and only 1 good one, and that's also amazing because you better fix your product. But that mindset thing, you'll find when you see those things that your heart rate variability changes. So I use a sensor called the Inner Balance Sensor. It's something I carry on the website, and I'm an advisor to the company who makes it. They're called the Heart Map Institute. But yeah, it's data-driven, but it's your nervous system betraying you because it thinks you're going to die when someone criticizes your new product. You're not going to die. And if you believe that and you're not aware that this is happening, you lose the mindset. You lose the zone. I also use neurofeedback. There's this program called 40 Years of Zen that I use with my clients, 8 electrodes glued to my head, teaching me to be in an alpha brain state and to do the same thing with my brain that an advanced Zen meditator does. So what I've got now is processes running in my brain that tell me how my brain is doing. They tell me what my nervous system is doing when I'm not paying attention. So I can become more mindful and more aware of what I'm bringing into a meeting. And this is very hard to explain. There aren't even words for half of this, but there's math behind it. And the difference is night and day.
I love it. I love that. And I'm wondering if somewhere along the trajectory of you becoming a business owner, an entrepreneur, did you have one of those game-changing moments, something that you maybe learned or, you know, a mindset shift or something that just changed the way you were approaching your business that made a huge difference?
One of the first things was losing $6 million when I was 28 that I made when I was 26.
That would do it.
Yeah, that sort of throws you for a loop. And it's because if you want to face survival level situations, you feel like you're dying when you lose a great fortune and you realize, oh, wait, I do have to work for the rest of my life. Oh, crap. And so having sort of I call it an emotional crisis as a result of that and, you know, just not paying attention to relationships and things like that, it did teach me a lot. And that helped me to get on a path where I realized if I wasn't paying attention to what was going on essentially in my nervous system, much less my emotions, the nervous system underlies most of your emotional responses, that I wasn't going to get the results I wanted. So I needed to lose 100 pounds. I lost 100 pounds, but I also needed to program the way my body responded to my environment better. So I changed the environment around me, and I reprogrammed the environment inside my body. And I didn't do that to be a better entrepreneur. I did that to be a better human. It just so happens that when you're a better human, you'll be a better entrepreneur as well as a better parent and a better bunch of other things, whatever it is you're trying to be.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is, I think that's something that a lot of people don't get is the value of a crisis. And they're not there to take you out of the game. They're there to teach you how to learn, how to adapt and respond to situations in a more effective way. And although a lot of them are very painful, and we don't necessarily all want to have to go through the mud like that, it sounds like they can also be very pivotal moments for us to really be a better person and ultimately become better at everything we do.
Yep. I very much agree with that.
Not that I've ever been through like a million crises or anything.
No matter how easy or hard your life is, when you have your first breakup in high school, you feel like you're going to die.
Yes.
In fact, true. Life is a series of learning experiences where your nervous system thinks you're going to die. You're not, or maybe you are, but afterwards, well, okay, then you're dead. But that whole time, all of the stress that comes out of that isn't necessarily helping you at all. It's just that you were confused by your nervous system, which is really motivated to keep you alive so the species can reproduce itself and so you won't starve and things like that. So just when you realize, okay, like something bad happened, what am I going to do next? It's amazing to sort of take that observer view and go, wow, like I'm really freaking out about this, but really, end of the day, did anyone die? Like, do I have all 4 of my limbs? All right, like it's a good day. And then you move on. Well
said. Well said. For me, mantras sometimes and quotes are there to help me remember these things, like when tough times happen or you kind of feel like everything's going a little sideways or maybe you're just not having the best day. Do you have a mantra or a quote that kind of reignites your power if you get a little off track?
The quote that kind of brings it all home for me, and it kind of describes a shift that happened in my perspective towards being an entrepreneur and towards money specifically, is a Henry Miller quote. And the quote is, "The goal of life is not to accumulate power, but to radiate it." So if what I was doing in really the first half of my career was like, I have to make a lot of money, like money, then I'll be able to do stuff. And now I'm like, look, the economic success that I have or I don't have directly affects my ability to help a lot of people. So yeah, having a bigger platform to do things like fund a documentary on toxic mold. Oh wait, I just did that. It's going to be launching in April. And to have the time to sit down and focus on writing a book that includes tens of thousands of hours of the thinking I've done, I look at those as things I'm sharing with people, but also I'm very fortunate that I could do that, because if I was working a full-time job and being a good parent, I probably wouldn't have had time to write the book. But the fact that I'm a CEO and I could delegate things and I could make space to do that, it's an amazing privilege. So when I go back to my motivation, was it to make another dollar? No, my motivation was to help a lot of people, and I believe the economic success comes along with that.
So true. I love that. That's a great quote. I haven't heard that one before. I'm going to write that one down. That's a good one. So let's talk about how people can get Bulletproof Diet. I have to say, I read through it. Everything that I've had to learn for my own body's optimum health, you put it in there it was like such a great outline. I'm like, why has this book not been written before? This would have saved me so much crap.
I've read thousands of books on the topics in there. And the reason I started my blog about 3.5 years ago is like, no one told me. When I was 20 and I had joint pain, I was sick all the time and brain fog and I couldn't pay attention, and 25 and it was getting even worse. It's not that hard to do the things that are in this book, but sorting through all the BS out there to know, I mean, you can find 2 books on the same shelf next to each other at Whole Foods that say the exact opposite, like eat paleo, eat vegan. Like, well, there are core principles that I don't actually think you can do long-term vegan and be healthy unless you're like 1% of the world, maybe. But I do find that it's overwhelming and intimidating for the average person. So like, what are the principles? What's the spectrum? And instead of trying to define what's perfect, what I do that's different in the book, and the reason I wrote it, is that you don't have to be perfect. You just need to take a step in the right direction. So everything's a spectrum. It's not do this, don't do that. So you have kryptonite foods that knocks you out. There's suspect foods that may or may not work for you, but probably you don't want to eat a lot of them anyway. And then you have the bulletproof foods. So if you're going to make a decision, just move one step in the right direction. Don't seek perfection, because you'll probably just be frustrated if you try and do that.
Yeah, and it's a huge leap for a lot of people. And so, again, moving the right direction is better than staying where you are. So where can people get the book?
You can go to Amazon, order the Bulletproof Diet, and if you go to orderbulletproofdietbook.com, I'll send a whole bunch of stuff to you for ordering it. So this is an important book, and I appreciate if people just go to Amazon and just check it out.
Yep. And is there going to be a Kindle version?
Yes, there's already a Kindle version you can order, and it'll get delivered on December 2nd or later.
And what about an audio version? Because I'm an Audible addict, I must say.
There is indeed a version. I read the first chapter of it myself and hired a professional reader to do the rest of it. I think I'm a pretty good reader, but I wanted someone who was really, really a professional guy who'd done a lot of books to bring the knowledge out. So I tell my story in the first chapter in my voice, and then we cut over to someone who has an even better voice. Awesome.
I can't wait. I'm loving the Audible thing right now, because then I can exercise and read the books that I want to read. So it's been fun to take on people's ideas through the audio versions.
Awesome.
Cool.
I am up against a hard stop now, and I'm so happy we got to chat today. Thank you so much for your show and your work, and for people listening, just manage your energy, manage your willpower, and everything gets easier.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dave. And hey, if you're listening in, we want to hear what's your big takeaway from today. Head on over to the show page at melaniebensonstrick.com. Look for the blog and pop over to today's show and let us know what's a big takeaway. And when you go order the book, make sure you pop over there and share one of the great ideas you're taking out of it. All right, see you guys all again next week. Bye-bye. Thanks, Dave.